Hi, I'm Dr. Wiśniewski and you are watching my YouTube channel Healthy for Long. In my videos, I talk to my audience about topics important to them if they want to live healthy, happy, long life. If it's something that interests you, please subscribe. Today I want to talk about the topic very important and I want to answer the question, are Americans getting healthier or sicker? I hope that after watching this video, you will get more motivation to change your lifestyle and to become healthier and live longer, happier life. In order to do that, I want to focus on data published in a recent article presented to Journal of American College of Cardiologists in July of 2022, and its title was Trends and Disparities in Cardiometabolic Health among U.S. adult population between 1999 and 2018. The purpose of that study was to evaluate cardiometabolic health indicators and how they changed over 20 years in United States. In order to do that, they surveyed over 55,000 of Americans aged 20 years or older, and they looked at 5 health indicators or cardiometabolic health indicators, which included optimal level of adiposity, which is fancy name for calling amount of fat in our body. They also looked at blood glucose level, lipid levels, blood pressure levels, and history of any cardiovascular disease events in the past among those individuals. So what constitutes good cardiometabolic health, or when would you be considered as healthy if we look at those 5 categories of cardiometabolic health? So first of all, if we look at amount of fat, they looked at 2 indicators, body mass index, BMI, and waist circumference. So you would be considered as healthy if your BMI is less than 25 kilograms per square meter, or for women, if your waist circumference is less than 88 centimeters, and for men, if it's less than 102 centimeters. If your fasting blood glucose level is less than 100 and your hemoglobin A1C is less than 5.7%, and you're not on any medications to control your blood glucose level, you would be also considered healthy. For blood lipid levels, they looked at ratio of total cholesterol to good cholesterol, also known as HDL. And that ratio ideally should be less than 3.5. And again, those individuals should not be on any medications to control their cholesterol levels. If you want to be considered as healthy under blood pressure category, your systolic blood pressure should be less than 120 and your diastolic blood pressure should be less than 80 millimeters of mercury. Finally, obviously, if you want to be considered as healthy and we are looking at history of your cardiovascular disease events, you should not have any in your past medical history. So now let's look at results. And to make it simpler and clear for you to compare, I only took the first years of results, 1999 with 2000, and then the latest one, almost 20 years later, from 2017 to 2018. So if we compare those 2 time periods for American adult population, we quickly notice that Americans' waist circumference increased significantly from 95.5 centimeters to 101 centimeters. Our BMI also increased significantly from 28 to 29.8 kilograms per square meter. And our fasting glucose levels increased from 103.2 to 108.2 milligrams per deciliter. All those 3 changes were significant. In the last category of total cholesterol measurements, we see some improvement over the last 20 years. And that is thanks to very wide use of cholesterol decreasing medications or cholesterol regulating medications, which I will show you later on in data that use of those medications skyrocketed in last 2-3 decades. If we look at other indicators of our lipid profile, such as HDL, LDL, and total cholesterol to HDL ratios, again, as I just mentioned, this is the only category our measurements improved, but that is mostly thanks to use of cholesterol regulating medications. Now, if we look at blood pressure, fortunately in this category our blood pressure did not change, at least blood pressure measurements didn't change. But as you will see later, again, recently we've been using many more medications controlling our blood pressure than we used to do before. Now, in this table, you can see prevalence or incidence of different cardiovascular events, and you can notice quickly that we are getting much sicker than before. For coronary heart disease, almost 30% more people have this disease diagnosed nowadays than before. That percentage changed from 3.3% of total adult population to 4.2%. Under diagnosis of myocardial infarction, that didn't change that much. It remained almost the same. Before it was 3.5%, recently it was 3.6%. And finally, for stroke, I see very worrisome results because that incidence increased significantly from 2.3% to 3.3%. So almost by 50%. Here, you can see what I already mentioned before, that we tend to use many more medications controlling our glucose, lipids, and blood pressure than before. As you can see, in the past, we used to use only 5% of our population was on medications regulating glucose. Now it is 11%. So 100% more people are using those medications. 20 years ago, only 7.8% of population was using cholesterol regulating medications, and now that percentage increased to almost 20% of population, and that probably accounts for our improvement in cholesterol levels because those medications tend to be very effective. And finally, also more people are using medications to control our blood pressure. 20 years ago, it was 18.7%, and now it is almost 30%. This slide tells us what percentage of adults, Americans, can be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome does not constitute one condition, one medical condition. It's rather diagnosed if we meet several criteria for its diagnosis. And we know 5 criteria that we use to diagnose this metabolic syndrome. Those are large waist circumference, increased blood pressure, increased glucose level, increased triglyceride levels, and low abnormal HDL, good cholesterol. If you meet 3 of those 5 criteria, you would be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome for the purpose of this study in this article. So for the population aged between 50 and 64 years, 55% of population 20 years ago would meet that diagnosis, and that increased to 57% recently. So that is not such a big change. However, for the population of 65 plus years of age, that increase was significant. In the past, only 62%, only it's in quotes because it's not really a good result, but 62% in the past was diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. And right now, that diagnosis meet 78% of this population. This slide tells you how many people would be considered healthy if we take under consideration different categories of cardiometabolic health. So recently, only 24% of population had normal adiposity levels, so normal BMIs and normal waist circumference. Recently, only 40% of population had normal blood glucose levels or were not on medication to control blood glucose. Recently, only 37% of population had normal blood pressure and were not on medications to control blood pressure. And finally, recently, only 37% of population had normal blood lipid levels and were not on medications to control cholesterol and lipids. But if we take under consideration all those 5 cardiometabolic indicators together to define who can be considered completely healthy in our population, 20 years ago, only 7.7% of population would have been considered healthy. And recently, in 2017-2018, that percentage of healthy people dropped only to 6.8%. That is staggeringly low number. We all should be very concerned. So, in conclusion, we can state that health of US adult population is deteriorating, whereas at the same time life expectancy, as documented by CDC data, improved by 2 years. In conclusion, we can say that health of US adult population is deteriorating, and at the same time life expectancy, which is given to us by CDC data, improved by 2 years between years of 2000 and 2018. So we are living longer lives, but at the same time we are becoming sicker and we are using more medical resources. We go more often to doctors, we use more medications for glucose control, lipid control, blood pressure control. That's not good state of our health. I hope that this data will inspire you to look at your own health indicators or indicators of your cardiometabolic health and to have discussion with your doctor and see what kind of changes you should make in your life, what lifestyle choices you can make to improve your chances of living healthy, long, and happy life.